We are a quarter through the 2025 NASCAR season. Let's take a look at the playoff grid and how that stands and where your driver is right now in the NASCAR Cup Series points. Let's break it all down on Dirty Air. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert. Let's talk about NASCAR in the point standings a quarter through the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series. 9 of the 26 regular season races complete, 9 of the 36 total. We have some news about Homestead Miami now becoming the official championship race of the 2026 season. It looks like that's going to continue to rotate, and of course we'll get into all of it here today on Dirty Air on a Monday edition of Dirty Air. And of course I do want to apologize, my light has actually recently broke, so I have another one on the way, but the lighting might not look terrific today. Sort of hoping the sunlight works with me today on this episode of Dirty Air. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. I want to start out by saying that Jordan Miyake with The Athletic has reported that Homestead Miami will host the 2026 championship race. It looks like that is the most likely scenario, that NASCAR will move away from Phoenix. Once again, Phoenix hosted the championship from 2020 to what looks to be 2025, and then we will go back to Homestead Miami in 2026, and then it looks like it will not be it will be a different location, a different venue in 2027 other than Miami, with a rotating championship. So there's been rumors of Kansas, Las Vegas. Phoenix is reportedly going to be in that rotation still, so you would still have Phoenix rotate every 3 years or so as a part of the championship rotation. So you'd have Miami, Phoenix. We don't know the other track for sure. It could be a Kansas, could be a Las Vegas. It could be both for all we know. You know, there's a lot up in the question right now for where that championship race will be held for sure. But certainly it should be interesting and fun to watch that storyline moving forward. I love that Miami is going to be the championship race again. It's such a fantastic mile-and-a-half racetrack. It's just really shows what NASCAR is all about throughout an entire season, right? You know, the driver has so much say in what happens when it comes to the results at that racetrack, which is sort of in contrast to what we see at some other racetracks with dirty air, mechanical issues, strategy, whatever, right? There's a bunch of racetracks where the driver is not fully in control. I feel like Miami is one of those where the driver is in full control of the outcome of that race. But I do want to talk about the point standings a little bit. Once again, 9 of the 36 races complete in 2025, 26 regular season races to make the playoffs. Here's the playoff grid right now, right? 9 races, 5 different winners. Christopher Bell with his 3 in a row, Denny Hamlin with his 2 in a row, Darlington and Martinsville. And then, of course, you have Kyle Larson with his 2 wins, your most recent winner, which was at Bristol last Sunday. And then, of course, William Byron with the Daytona 500, Josh Berry with the 1 Las Vegas win. Kind of an upset win for Josh Berry. I think that was unexpected going into the season. He showed a lot of speed, but he's the only driver that's won a race that's not in the top 16 in points, regardless of when you're in, right? You know, he's the only driver that would be outside the playoffs if it was just done on points, right? So that's certainly something interesting to note. Of course, you have Chase Elliott. He's been super consistent all year. He's typically that top driver without a win. I feel like this has been a common theme for a while. You have Blaney. Once again, Blaney's been fast all year. Should have won a couple of races, but has engine trouble. Has had some engine failures, mechanical failures the last few weeks that have cost him getting that win, punching his ticket into the playoffs. But a lot of stage points for Ryan Blaney and the 12 team. So that's certainly a big deal for them. You have Tyler Reddick, once again, 76 points above the cut line. Another one of those drivers we haven't seen him get to really in position to win races yet. So I think it's been a little bit of a step down from prior years, but certainly still a solid season so far. 8th on the playoff grid, 76 points above. No doubt in my mind that these guys would make it in. Bubba Wallace with a solid year. I think that's a solid year for Wallace. You know, he's one of those drivers every year where he's sort of on the bubble, right? Can Wallace get in? Is Wallace not going to get in? Right now he's 9th, showing a lot of speed, getting a lot of stage points. Looks way better every single year. He's consistently getting better. Now, is he a championship caliber driver? I think most people would say no. He's a playoff caliber driver. He's been on the fence. Maybe he can get above that hump and be a solid playoff driver. Somebody we expect to be in going into each season. Right now, it's more like on the fence. You know, Bubba could miss it. We wouldn't be surprised. He could make it. We wouldn't be surprised there either. We'll have to continue to watch him. Once again, it's still very early in the year. Only 9 of the 26 races completed. We have a long ways to go. This is going to shake up a lot. You have Joey Logano, 47 points above. Once again, Logano has not had a lot of good results this season, but he's been getting stage points, and that's been a big, reasoning for him being even in the top 10 on this playoff grid is those stage points. Running well and getting those points really does pay off, and you're seeing it with Logano. Alex Bowman, 46 above. Ross Chastain having a solid season, 31 above. Gets a little closer here. Chris Buescher, Briscoe, Priest, Kyle Busch, only 2 points above the cut line right now. Certainly, once again, very early in the season, but Kyle Busch continuing to struggle with RCR. We expected him to maybe try to get better with all these new engineers coming in. Maybe we get closer to winning races. To be 16th on the playoff grid right now, it could take more time for him to get up to top 10 or winning speed if he ever gets back to that. But certainly right now, it's just not quite there. After we almost won Austin, Texas earlier this year, was in contention for the win, led the most laps, didn't get the win. So for him to be 16th in points now on the playoff grid is certainly a little disappointing. AJ Allmendinger having a solid year, right? This is somebody that I would predict going into the season might not make the playoffs, right? Not off of points anyway. Might certainly get a win at a road course. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. below McDowell, who was having a very solid season, to start the year, was above the playoff cut line, is now below the playoff cut line by 26 points after a rough few weeks. And then, of course, you have John Hunter Nemechek with a few strong finishes to start out the NASCAR season. 2 top 10s to start out the NASCAR season. That's big for that team. Now 20th on the playoff grid. Certainly exciting. There's a few drivers I do want to mention that could win their way into the playoffs that are not looking good on the playoff grid right now. Both of these drivers are below the top 30. That's going to be Brad Keselowski. Terrible season, I think, for Brad Keselowski. He's not showing a lot of speed at a lot of racetracks. Has had a lot of mistakes on the racetrack, on the racing surface all season long. Go back to Darlington when he was running up front, had a chance to get a solid top 10 finish. Has a lug nut come off. That's stuff that you can't have happen when you're already having a rough season. You're already far behind, and you're going to start to see that really play a role into Brad Keselowski's season. It's not a must win, but it's going to be difficult for him to come back with as big of a deficit that he's in. We have to look at Brad Keselowski to try to win one of these races, which he very realistically can do. Right? He won a race last year at Darlington, and Brad Keselowski is a solid driver, a champion, winning driver, a 2012 champion. No doubt in my mind that with that team, with that equipment, with the driver capability he has, he could certainly win a race at some point, just not showing a lot of speed right now. Not sure what the issue is, considering Ryan Preece and Chris Buescher, well, you can look at it. They're both right now above the playoff cut line, right? So certainly a bit of a concern why the team owner and the veteran driver is performing the worst out of all three. I don't know. We have to maybe dive into that a little bit deeper moving forward. The other one's going to be Shane Van Gisbergen. While Shane Van Gisbergen is not a driver I would consider to compete and win at a typical racetrack, he's going to be favored when we go to these road courses, right? Sonoma, Watkins Glen, Chicago street race that he won before. He's going to be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win these Cup Series races. It does not matter where you're at in points. If you race every race of the NASCAR circuit on the calendar and you win a race, you get into the playoffs if you do it before the playoff starts. No doubt in my mind, Shane Van Gisbergen very realistically can win one of these NASCAR Cup races. Once again, we have some road courses coming up. Sonoma, Watkins Glen, Chicago street race is the big one. He's going to be the favorite, most likely, going into that Chicago street race. Very realistically, Shane Van Gisbergen can kind of mess up this playoff grid and punch his ticket into the playoffs. But once again, still very early in the NASCAR Cup Series season. But that's certainly a quick look at it. Here's a look at the regular season points. William Byron, once again, if you're in gold, you have won a race this season. So you see the top 4 there have all won a race this year. The only exception to this would be Josh Berry, who's, I think, 20th in regular season standings. And then the number on the left, it starts at 15, 10, then goes to 8, 7, 6. That would be the additional playoff points you would earn per round if you finished in that position. So the regular season champ gets 15, second gets 10th, and so on down. You can take a look at it there. William Byron, obviously, kind of pulling away right now with the points in. 40-point lead. That's certainly very solid. Denny Hamlin solid as well. Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson all up there right now, getting a lot of stage points, running very well. Once again, you see Chase Elliott, that top guy that doesn't have a win so far this season. And then, of course, you see Bubba Wallace in the top 10. Both of the 2311 Toyotas, certainly a solid running for them. And we'll continue to watch this and monitor this throughout the rest of the NASCAR season. Here's a quick look at the playoff points that have already been accumulated through the 2025 NASCAR season. Once again, 9 races in. There's been 9 different winners. That's a lot of playoff points on the table. And here you go, 10 different drivers with playoff points. You see Christopher Bell, 3 wins plus a stage win. Kyle Larson, 4 stage wins, 2 wins. And you have Denny Hamlin with his 2 Cup Series wins. And, of course, you have the 2 stage win as well. And you have William Byron with some stage wins, Josh Berry with the 6 playoff points with his win in a stage. And then you see some of the guys that have not won a race this year. Blaney Logano, the Penske guys with a couple, and then a few with 1. Once again, 10 drivers with playoff points already in 2025. These will be accumulated moving forward throughout the season. So I just wanted to take a quick little point standings look. I know this wasn't maybe the most exciting video, but it was more of an analytical video. But I thought it was interesting to look at this. I like to break this down as we get closer to the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte. That's when I really start to really look at the playoff grid. So it's early right now, but even though we don't know who's going to make the playoffs yet for sure, it's not a clear playoff cut picture yet, we can sort of take a look at these standings and see, okay, this guy's having a good season, this guy's showing speed, this guy's not, and that's something that's interesting to look at. But that's it. All there's to talk about. Talladega coming up Sunday afternoon. I'll certainly do a Dirty Air following the big one at Talladega, the big race at Talladega. That's always exciting, exciting stop on the NASCAR circuit. And of course, let's get rowdy.